William, you haven't been on before. Why don't you introduce yourself, take a couple of minutes so you focus on analytics?
Sure. My name is William Rock. I've been doing internet marketing since 1998. Started back when Google first got its domain. I was kind of doing everything before Google. And since then, I've built a lot of different corporations, saved a lot of people a lot of money with analytics. And what I focus on really is conversion goals, looking at how the visitor interacts, how the visitor works with the page, all the way down to the completion of the sale. And then I also look at the hierarchy inside of the business and look for some of the funnel flaws inside the corporation. So when a lead comes from a website, it gets to be a salesperson. That salesperson engage, and can I track that by CRM? And then I move into even a further model and completion of the service or product, and how was the actual end goal? Was the client happy? And how can we actually improve the funnel completely from web all the way down to the funnel of the corporation? So complete sales.
Okay, very good. I've got on the graphic that we're going to be using Nodex3, which is a company out of the UK. Unfortunately, they're having some technical problems and won't be able to participate. But William's been involved in this space for a long time, and for what the students need, he's going to give us all the firepower that we need when it comes to analytics along the way, and by the end of the project, a little bit beyond that. So appreciate William, your participation in this.
Not a problem. And just to add to that a little bit, we might have the owner of that tool actually come out and would love to speak with you. We talked about that in private, but I think he's going to be a good for it.
Okay, good. Well,
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I look forward to that. Daryl, we don't see your picture, but why don't you speak to us, give a little bit of your background, and welcome to the team.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Daryl Rosen. I worked with Procter & Gamble for 30 years, retired. I was one of the first members to come down and start the relationship with a large supplier with Walmart back in the mid to late 80s. And most recently was the president and COO of a company called the 8th and Walton here in Bentonville, designed to work with Walmart suppliers and help, in their skill needs, etc. Now I'm no longer with that company and kind of looking to see what my next adventure might be. Part of that is getting involved in this project and seeing what value I can add here.
Excellent. Anybody have any questions of Daryl? I mean, he brings a heck of a lot to the table when it's an understanding of really what goes on in the supplier community, as well as anybody who's asked to sponsor, because I'm sure P&G, Daryl, is a big target for asks. So, Alden, I'm gonna want you to really do probably a lot of the talking in this session, because you've done some really amazing stuff. So I'll hold off in bringing you on for just a minute. I think everybody knows Larry. So although Daryl, I don't think you know Larry. So Larry, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to Larry? Larry, I've got you muted. So yeah, there you go.
Hi, Daryl. Larry Fenolier, based in Trinidad and Tobago. Started off as a chef, but really my passion is really cooking. But my first degree is in computer science, so I'm kind of taken social media and married it to my passion, cooking, and just built a following out of that. But I enjoy working with Jim. I've worked with him on a couple of things, and this project is very exciting, very interesting, and whatever I can do to help out in the process, I'll be more than happy to do that. And meeting Alden, he comes with some really, really good ideas, and looking forward to not only working with him, but also William Rock, guy I know on Google+, and Daryl, looking forward to learning from you too, because you're a man of a wealth of experience based on what you you've told us. So
yeah, there's so much. Daryl also, by the way, is an adjunct professor at JBU, so he teaches the strategy course and has been probably been doing it longer than I have. I've been over there about 6 years or so. Daryl, I've got you on mute, so we'll let you speak a little bit more about that in a moment. Let me just kind of bring you up to speed very quickly on what's gone on here the last few days, and we'll keep this to about 20 more minutes. There have been some really interesting things that have happened, and what's going on right now is we're building some momentum. I sent a copy of an email that I received from somebody I spoke to at one of the local nonprofits that's been here for around 20 years or so, called all of a sudden the name's escaping me, but Village, not Reunion of Village, but sorry. And it's the executive. I talked to somebody in my Sunday school class who is on the board, and then it turns out Bob Ryan, some of y'all know Bob, has been on their board also in the past for a long time. Has a lot of interesting things, but they were extremely excited about getting involved in the project. One of the things I'm going to be doing is getting in touch with the students about doing as much preliminary work as possible in terms of selecting the teams and selecting the projects that they work on for this exercise, because what Alden is doing right now, for those of you not aware, is going through the setup and the work through his organization at Camp War Eagle and finding out best practices about the best way to be able to not only set up, but then create the atmosphere for sharing, and then setting up the content to be able to share. So what we're going to do is we're going to be focusing in the beginning with the class on getting themselves set up, and then in turn meeting with the nonprofits, getting them set up with their staffers, and then from there. But we'll learn a lot of best practices from Alden that seem to be, to me, would work a certain way, but can be fine-tuned with what he's doing. We're going to the degree we can, we want the nonprofits to start with the business model canvas, progress into the value proposition canvas, which really digs into the product market fit kind of an area, to see so they really understand where they are positioned relative to their competition out there who are seeking funds. And then moving on as quickly as possible into content development and then distribution through the network. So those are the key areas that we're going to be going through. Let me ask at this time if anybody I'm going to unmute everybody and ask if anybody has any comments or questions. I want Alden to come on and talk about what he's found, because I'm sure he can amplify what I'm saying.
I would probably ask, are these also going to be recorded so that we can see them as a group after, like how the class is actually working with the material, and how we can actually move them along, even like a small coaching session for like a hangout, come in, we just like work them through that spot that they might have problems with?
That's a really good suggestion. I'm planning on right now having a Thursday hangout on air, our Zoom session with all students, that kind of an office hours for a professor. They can come in and ask questions and talk about their status. I'd also like for people, if you're interested in doing it, to take a team and be able to work with them. But I know, William, in your particular case, you've got specialization in the analytics side of it that I think everybody needs to hear that. So what I'd like, to the degree that any of you want to do it, is come into a class for 30 minutes and actually be able to have a session where you can both give information as well as have a Q&A. So we can certainly look at that. If you've got any other ideas about communicating with them, feel free to bring it up.
Well, some of the tools that you have in the mix there, monitoring your Google Plus profile and all those different elements, those are also things that I've already worked with in the past as well. So.
Very good. Okay.
So thank you for that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else have any comments, questions? All right. Larry, I'm new to this tool, and I noticed that it has Daryl's iPhone. The icon that I've got here for his video is showing as muted. So I assume it does that. It just automatically sees that it's not picking up on his camera.
Yeah, he doesn't have his camera turned on. So if he's using the Zoom app,
Right.
you have the choice to turn your camera off or leave it on as you come into the Zoom meeting. So more than likely, he does not have his camera turned on.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let me, let's see, Daryl, I thought I saw it looking like you were trying to talk, so I'll stop for a second.
No, I was just going to say I'll try to get my camera turned on here.
Okay. Well, don't worry about it. We would love to see your face if you can, but sometimes Holden's managed to figure out a way to do it with his camera phone. I guess he's out there in the middle of a session. Holden, let me switch it over to you. I'd very much like to hear what you've been finding over the last week and a half or so in terms of setting up Camp War Eagle. And I think everybody's familiar with it. I've mentioned it to everybody. So to be able to find out what you found out, I found one thing that you mentioned in your email was very intriguing in that I see you're walking someplace, so I assume we're getting somewhere closer, but more convenient. But that one of the things that you mentioned was your organization up in Benton County apparently has been using some social media for the last couple of years, and y'all learned some best practices from those guys. So be interested in seeing what you learned from them. All right.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, thanks. Hey, William, Daryl, thank you both for taking some time with us. Very, very grateful for that. I'm, not as well versed as you are, Daryl, in business, and certainly William on the analytics side, understanding, the client's use of the site and all the different particulars of what they see, what they experience, what they feel, when they hit a site. And that's fantastic insight. So really thankful for both insights. So again, very, very grateful to you both. My history with camp is about 10 years old. I come from a small business background. So my parents own small businesses and put me out there as a high school and college student saying, hey, take lead on this project. So I've been doing project management for a long time and enjoy that. And so it's exciting to hear a vision, see something articulated and then roll it into implementation. That's what I do. I love rolling stuff into implementation and really creating the various steps to make it work, make it function appropriately. So that's what I've been doing at camp, trying to build teams, manage people, and execute projects in order to make the students' experience in their educational process, in their spiritual development, and certainly in their personal development better and better. So we're excited about that and what camp brings to the table on that front. We have been using social media because our students use social media. We've been using social media because our parents use social media. It's a communication tool, but we're not experts. And so we've been very thankful that we believe, this has been orchestrated to enhance our student experience, enhance our staff's contact with students. And so we're excited to learn a lot. And we are. I think one of the learnings that Jim just pointed to is that one of our cities had done a really great job connecting with students via social media, specifically Instagram and Facebook. They had not only expected students to initiate a relationship, but had gone out and really initiated the relationship with the students based on our database. So we were excited about that and how they had initiated that process. And because they've done that for the past 3 years, we see a lot more engagement across all platforms now that they've started the Google Plus, now that they've started. So if I scream, there's a bee on me. So I'm outside. I'm in Little Rock at a conference for 21st Century Community Learning Center, and there's a bee on me right now. So that's not professional at all, but that's just what's happening in my world. And there's actually this Asa Hutchinson has required that all state buildings have a mandatory earthquake drill today. So we're outside because of this earthquake drill. Again, this is not professional at all, but this is my world right now, so forgive me. in any case, we're really thankful to see that the students, not because they've engaged on Instagram and Facebook, they've migrated over to Twitter, and if they have that account, and Google Plus, they've seen those, and parents have seen those a lot more readily than they would have if we hadn't already added them to that single platform. So we're excited about that. The other thing that my team does a great job of is telling stories. So we've already had an infrastructure in which we get a lot of data points. And it's hard to do with youth development. Like data in youth development, it's kind of a weird thing because it's relationship oriented. There's not a lot that's hard and fast, but you have to make it hard and fast. So we've done that. We've created some metrics that we delivered to our funders, but we use that to evaluate their relationships. Attached to that data are stories. So we've tried to do a really good job drawing those stories out. And now through these social media platforms, it's not just internal stuff. We want to make it more external. We want to make the public more aware of what's happening, capture that story, and hopefully captivate the audience. So that's what we're excited about on this front. And I can't wait to see what these students do. I know we're just, a week out, Jim, from the class starting?
Yeah, about a week and a half.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. So we're working hard. Our team is working really hard to implement the steps that Jim has asked us to. And we had a big meeting yesterday to get all the staff on board with our platforms and to help them identify what the shareholder ecosystem looks like for their individual city. So I can articulate the structure of our organization if I need to, but in any case, there are 4 chapters of our youth development organization. And so in those 4 chapters, they were able to say, who's our audience? Who are we going after for the participation, right? We want to see participation increase. We want to see engagement increase. But who are our advocates? Who are we collaborating with? Who are going to be the cheerleaders, right? So that was exciting for me to hear about all the collaborative efforts. I get a report every 2 weeks from my staff, but to hear about what's going on and then to say to them, hey, make the ask. Let this be your thank you note to those people. Do that through social media. And so a lot of our staff, they're really great communicators. They're really great at relationships. And now this is another venue for them to communicate a thanks to a school, to a chamber of commerce, to a board of directors, to a school counselor that's been really great, to a church that brought resources to us, etc. So I'm very excited about that. That's how they're viewing it. That's their perspective on the advocate engagement. So anyway, that's where we are in our process. We've still got more work to do and a lot more to understand, specifically with how to add those students, how to add those advocates and engage them strategically. And then also on the client side, what are we looking for with respect to engagement? What are some benchmarks we should be establishing, as we trek through this process?
That's an excellent summary, dude. Let me unmute everybody and just see if anybody's got any comments about that. Let's see. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. I just hit mute instead of unmute. Unmute all. Okay. All right. Anybody want to comment on what Alden said there?
What I was going to say is just, wow, this sounds like just a really awesome opportunity for a lot of people to learn some neat stuff. And like you were mentioning, you've got all of this flow and social already. How can you also come back and harness that and even look at your analytics as well? And then detail out maybe some simple shortcuts that you guys are only having to pay attention to and not worry about the rest of the data, but you can quickly hit your data points for 10 minutes a day.
And this is what I was telling our team yesterday, William, we've already done all the heavy lifting. We've got the infrastructure of programming, of relationships, of reporting kind of in place. And now we just need to figure out what to do with that and where to place it so that it strategically engages the audience that we want to and the advocates that we want to.
Absolutely.
One thing I'll mention, and William, perhaps we've got about 5 more minutes before our allocated time is up, but you've done a lot of work in the nonprofit area. In particular, showed me some videos of some things that you did. So you probably got some pretty good ideas as to the kind of things that you would like to see when it comes to analytics, but we'll continue feeding things back to you. And I'd say this, I'm going to ask you this question in a second, but if anybody has any suggestions for the way we keep score, I mean, in my inimitable style, I just kind of start things and then see what happens. And it's a making it up as you go along. Alden experienced this as one of my students last year. So, but I think, we're really pressing the envelope when it comes to this. So any additions that we want to have before class would be great to be able to have it, well nailed down. But along the way, if things pop up and you say, we ought to really add this, or this isn't working, we can take that off. Feel free to jump in and suggest that, because this is a test case, beta test for something that could go a long way. William, your experience then in Kansas City area, which is where you are?
Yeah, what I ended up doing is I work with programs like Cast for Kids. Cast for Kids is a nonprofit that's actually all over the United States, so it's grown pretty substantially. But what it is where we get together as pro fishermen, and we take out our boats and pontoons, and we take out children and fish, but we give them everything that they need. The parents actually sit at the shore and they get taken care of as well. So now you've got a child that's going out, catching a fish, having a half a day out in the water, coming back and having lunch, and then just having an award ceremony. They all win. They all get a trophy. They all go home with fishing rods, and they come back every year to do it again. And it's chosen by the school. So the kids are chosen by different coordinators. And what I ended up doing is getting involved. It was sponsored by the Kansas Police Department. Sorry, I'm starting. And we did a lot of video recording, a lot of social. I have a company called Fishing Tackle Forum. So I have tackle manufacturers that also volunteered and sent stuff. So the list goes on. I do a lot of things with our church, with our congregation, taking kids fishing, same thing. It's just outdoors, bringing them from their video games to something that they can do. And then when you see a child that has, Down syndrome, and he's in a chair and he really can't hold that fishing rod. My son was also a pro angler as well. So we went on these events together, father and son, and we would go from boat to boat to boat and hop from boat to boat to boat. And he would actually work with these kids and catch fish. So he had his jersey on. He was sponsored by Bass Pro, and the list goes on. But we have a lot of fun. I actually have a disability with my legs, so chronic pain. I've got RSD, but at the same time, stop fishing, but I still continue to promote. So that's where I can do with digital. But I think there's a lot of things that even came out of this conversation where we can look at somebody's analytics and just kind of do a forensic. I look at it, view analytics, view access. So I don't have to have admin rights, but you can share your Google Analytics with me. I can do a complete site audit and see how we're doing score-wise. And then where we can also do a little bit of fine-tuning with the program. You might be seeing a bunch of different bounce ratios on a particular page from a particular campaign. How do we fine-tune that page from no longer bouncing, but they're following through to get to the rest of the information you want them to get to?
Well, I would say that, I like to say that content is all about activities, experiences, and stories that resonate with the audience. And just your brief story there about the charity you support is obviously it resonates with me. So I think these kind of things we don't want to exploit, and we don't necessarily need to interview the clients, the subjects of it, because that may be seen as exploitive. But to the degree that we can meet with the volunteers and staff and these in a video call like this, record it, get little 45-minute to a minute and a half clips, then we're going to have the kind of content I think that people will want to share and to create that viral marketing. So
sure.
Daryl, any comments that you want to make on that?
No, I'm very impressed with the comprehensive nature of the project itself. Certainly the great foundation that's already been laid. It's really encouraging to me as I just sit here and listen to the different aspects of kind of the how, the what, and then the how we plan to approach this. I think it's very good.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Alden and Larry, you and I were talking as an example in terms of content. A lot of nonprofits may not have video, but there's a heck of a lot of photographs that are out there, and through Google, YouTube, you can actually create a montage with voiceover or music or whatever. So you can create, in effect, a video likeness. So for those who don't have content, but they can get started with that right away. So
That's a great idea. That's a great idea, and it's free with Google Photos. So you can actually add like 25 photos to a storyboard. It creates a video for you.
Exactly. Well, because that's what I did with I was showing Jim this morning. I am not the greatest videographer. I don't have any equipment. I just have a regular cell phone. And I was able to take some photos, series of photos of my uncle making a local dish. And I assembled them together through YouTube and added some music and told a story and had a link to the recipe. And the thing has gotten over 1,000 views.
It's magic, isn't it? It adds a little bit of spice to it.
Exactly. So people who are worrying about not having equipment or not having, they're not a good videographer, all those places have photos. Everybody has photos. Just put them together and tell your story. And it doesn't have to be long. A minute, 45 seconds, a minute, 30 seconds max.
Yeah.
And tell your story.
Excellent. Well, Alden, let me ask you to wrap up. I mean, I'll finish the wrap up, but anything that you've got to say at this point that you want to throw into to the mix?
I think one of the things that I've already implemented without your permission, Jim, so I'll just beg your forgiveness on the front end, but I did go ahead and create roles for my team members. So, the roles that you and I have been talking about via email, we've created some of those roles. So we have a content curator, we have a social media expert, and then we have someone who's a communicator with the outside organizations, right? So the partners or with the students, things like that. So we've kind of developed that within our team chapters, and then I'm administrating over that and helping to curate some of that content. And it's worked out pretty well so far. I think everybody understands their role very clearly and is able to execute a little more fluidly, knowing like, here's my process, this is where it starts, this is where it ends, that's when the post is out, to the audience, and this is where it's going, which platforms we're hitting and which audience we're trying to attract. So we're still working through that, like the actual execution, but I think understanding the role has been an important thing for my team. Like, what do I do with this, Alden? Well, you've got all this content, you have this audience, you have these advocates to find. Now here's where you're going with it. This is your particular role, and that's helped them, assimilate and then unify and move forward. So excited about that, but we'll see how it goes. I'm going to need some counsel. We're not experts. We're still figuring out, but excited to receive some counsel as we troubleshoot.
Quick question on that note, just a quick question, but are you guys also using marketing calendars in this project where basically you already have all the content and ideas of where we're going to place that month or what topic that is this week?
Absolutely. So there's actually a calendar that extends throughout the semester so far, so our programming semester, and then it's week by week and then day by day which content the chapters are going to focus on. Now it's individualized based on the city and what's going on in that particular chapter, but they know what to emphasize on particular days of the week for the entirety of the semester.
Perfect.
Yeah, I don't know just how granular we're going to get when it comes to the teams, to the student teams. There's no question that Alden's going to be showing a template of things that are best practices and that are ahead of what they're going to be able to do. I mean, these are full-time employees with various companies, and so it's not like a full-time MBA program. So there's some limitations that they're going to run into, but I think we'll hit the highlights and end up with some pretty good results. The thing I'll finish up with, I noticed it's interesting, Larry, I noticed that it's counting down now for 7 minutes until I have to upgrade to a paid account. So we'll definitely wrap up. But what I'm going to be doing is, at Alden's comment, I'm going to be contacting all of my students. I have all of their addresses now, and we'll be recommending that they start teaming up, finding 3 others that they can work on, looking at the database of causes, see where they've got some contacts, and then begin organizing that, because the foundation obviously starts with the team and the project, and then we begin the inventory of all of the database of different social media that they've got, and then they duplicate themselves on through the stakeholder ecosystem. So that'll be really the focus. Content will be something that will be, probably 2 or 3 weeks in when we really get into detail on it. But like I say, we're making it up as we go along. If you see anybody sees anything that we need to advance, we made a comment about the calendar as an example. I don't have a calendar set up for the students or for them, but we'll Alden and I will talk about that as to how we can spread that best practice onto the student team so they control it. I've got a Google private community that I set up for the JBU class, and I'll invite y'all to be in that, and I'm going to have the students engaging in there. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to bring them up, or contact me separately. Like I say, it's probably for those of you guys who are a lot more structured than I am, there may seem to be awfully loosey-goosey here, but I think we've made a tremendous product. Thank goodness for Alden's involvement. And then I think we're going to end up with something that everybody's proud of, and we're going to be able to. I think we're going to be able to help move the needle when it comes to the revenue model that'll work for nonprofits to be able to take care of a lot more clients than they've been able to. One last thing I'll mention, Pure Charity. I met with Rick Breckelbaum last week, and Pure Charity is very interested. Alden, I'll get you together with them, and this way it's a crowdsource fundraising so that people from outside this Northwest Arkansas community can participate in this venture. So it goes beyond social media.
And one last thing I just remembered is the nonprofit grant from Google AdWords. So I'm actually going to be looking further into that, and so if that plays any role in our mix of the classroom. So
yeah, go ahead and do that. There was somebody that we were thinking about talking to in Martin's group, but if you want to take a little bit of a lead on that, we can bring them in at some later time after we get the basics down.
Not a problem. Well, I fly down to Google next week, so I'll be able to ask the question, I think.
I'd say so. All right, guys. Anybody else have anything else they want to bring up? Otherwise, we'll meet again next week at this time, if that's okay.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, good. I think we may do it at a quarter after, and that way Robin can join us. He has something that he has to do up until right up against the deadline we had here. So, all right, guys. Thanks very much. Look forward to talking to you again. And feel free to contact me directly.